I'm for healthcare reform, and if we get together, we're going to deliver a healthcare reform bill.
Can we still count on your vote?
Well, I've got to see how things go now.
Things seem to be going his way. Senator Lieberman in the driver's seat on healthcare reform.
If you detected a smile, it's because, like him or loathe him, Joe Lieberman is exactly where he wants to be. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And for everything you need to know all day long, it's twitter.com/The Note. Let us know what you think.
Kick us off. What is your top line today, Rick?
Joe-Mentum, the most famous independent Democrat, is at it again. He is at the center of all of the action in Senate negotiations. He is the most important arbiter of what will be in or won't be in President Obama's health care bill. And it looks like the Obama White House and Senate Majority Harry Reid are happy to let this happen, or at least sad to let this happen, but letting it happen regardless. He is the key person, and he knows that he's in the driver's seat. They need him as number 60, as the 60th vote. Of course, any senator is the 60th vote, but he is more 60th than others, perhaps.
Joe Biden said this morning that he will eventually see the light and no doubt vote for a final package. Of course, that final package is one that he's getting to craft right now, so that's not a big projection. But he also said, Biden said about Joe Lieberman, he said, I won't question his motives, but his judgment is wrong here. So clearly there's still some more work to be done. Liberal revolt, yes, liberals are apoplectic right now over Joe Lieberman. They cannot believe that this year-long push for health care reform is coming down to the guy who basically, went and supported John McCain in the last presidential election and has been a sort of turncoat to the Democratic Party. Obviously, the math dictates that Lieberman, as you were saying, matters, Rick, but now the question for liberals is the watered-down version of health care reform worth it, or is it actually preferable to them to not do it this time and try to do it another time?
And the other side of the question is, where are the pressure points? Because Joe Lieberman clearly isn't going to cave to liberal pressure at this point. They put more pressure, obviously, on Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. On the White House, there's one liberal group that's up with ads now targeting Rahm Emanuel, because everyone knows that Rahm caves when you go up and call him names on television.
To that.
Gitmo North. It's official today. A sparsely used prison outside of in rural Illinois, outside of Chicago, is going to be the new home for up to 100 Guantanamo Bay detainees. And the administration is leading with this as a job-creating proposal for an economically distressed part of the state. To me, that's kind of an uncomfortable mix. When you talk stimulus spending or national security policies, I don't know that the two are compatible as ideas.
And there's a bigger political problem for them, which is, of course, it's very easy to demagogue this issue and just talk about bringing terrorists into the country. That is not going to be a very easy vote for a lot of senators. Even if they live in the 49 other states, it's going to be very easy for them not to support this move. Big sales job up ahead for the White House. White House poll envy. Have you seen Michelle Obama's latest approval ratings? My God, Marist Institute is out with a new poll today, has her favorables sky high. She's at 20% unfavorable, 68% have a favorable impression of her, and 53% of Republicans have a favorable impression of her. I just have got to believe, you want to talk pillow talk, that the president at this point is quite jealous of his wife's poll numbers.
Well, clearly this is all pointing toward a 2016 matchup of Laura Bush and Michelle Obama. There's something about this country, we love to love our first ladies.
Well, our colleague Karen Travers did say, perhaps now we'll see Barack Obama plant a vegetable garden and appear on the cover of Vogue.
Right, but, yeah, that works for you.
We're going to begin with Kevin Madden, who joins us each Tuesday. Thank you, sir, Republican strategist, for being here. Let's begin with this healthcare news, because this really, it turned yesterday. There was a whole new element to this, which it seems like the White House has finally said, today's the day. We have to tell the liberals they're being rolled. We need a deal. This is over.
Right. And I think this always goes back to a point that I made about 3 months ago, which was, do you think the White House is going to get a bill by the end of the year? And I said, absolutely. You know why? Because they've defined a win as a bill. And then if the bill said H.R. 1 or S1 and it said healthcare reform on it, and that's all it said, they would sign that bill. So they've defined a win as getting a bill, and they're doing what they can to help get to 60 votes. And I think that's what you're seeing now. You're right, that the liberals and their policy demands be damned, they're going to get a bill.
How much of it do they need to care about this, what's going on right now on the left? Because these are not happy campers. They feel betrayed, certainly now by Joe Lieberman and the Democratic caucus, and they're going to feel betrayed by this White House.
Sure, because I don't think that they're going to get much. They're not going to be able to build any political capital out of the middle still with this bill, and that they have to be very worried that we've seen their approval rating amongst liberals go from something like 92% about 6 months ago, very quickly to 80 to and maybe even below that, and that represents a big part of their winning coalition when they try to when they're trying to go to the polls in 2010. So it has to be very troubling for them to see that trend line among their liberal support.
But you've always sat here and described President Obama's base as the middle, not the left, that the base of his support is the appeal to independence. Is that, does that calculus mean that they believe what you were saying before, that a bill will satisfy independence no matter what's in it? Because that seems illogical to me. I don't. Tell me I'm wrong. That independence will be fully satisfied with just passage of any bill.
Well, I don't think they will, and I think that's one of the problems. Is that the longer this bill has been litigated up on Capitol Hill, it's driven away independence because of the cost. I think one of the reasons that they have to be worried is that they have to look at what their core support was. Their base is absolutely the middle in order to win, but their core support, where they can something that they can count on no matter what, has started to erode as well. So it has to be a very troubling trend line that they're losing independence at the same time that they're losing their core support. What are they left with now? Are they going to start all of a sudden courting the right because they've driven away everybody? I mean, it's become en vogue to criticize this president on the right, no matter what, even when he's right on policy like Afghanistan, but they're never going to get the support from the right. The independents in the middle are starting to, they're alienating them because of the costs of so many of their proposals, and now they're starting to lose liberals because they don't know, liberals don't feel that they have any core principles left, and they're not willing to fight for progressive policies.
The watchword around health care from the beginning from the White House has been just keep the process moving, keep it moving. And that seems to be what's driving the end stage negotiations right now in the Senate to get anything done. But we're talking about an extraordinarily different bill that would pass the Senate versus the House. You still are going to have to deal with these exact same issues with the same numerical realities that the president, they're kicking the can down the road. They're going to have to deal with getting back to 60 with whatever comes out of conference.
You mean politically?
Politically.
Well, you know, Byron New York had a wonderful piece today in the Washington Examiner. And he said there's three perspectives that you have to take into account. The first is the House. Harry Reid and Henry Waxman, who come from decidedly liberal districts, are looking at those districts that are in transition, and they see them exactly that they're transitionary, those are seats that they're going to lose in 2010 no matter what. So they're going to use that, they're going to use them as a vehicle to get whatever bill they can through the House. On the Senate side, Harry Reid and Chris Dodd, I think there's certain people are starting to make a calculation that those are gone no matter what, and that they have to continue to press forward. And then the White House, this is the only chance where they have the political capital to get something done. So that's the reason they're pressing forward. And again, that goes back to our earlier point, which was they've already defined a win as a bill, and that's what they're going forward.
Okay, just look ahead to how, obviously, I think the 2010 midterms, tell me if you agree, are going to be largely about the economy and where unemployment is and the president's overall, approval rating. But explain to me how health care, if this bill passes that we see now, the way Lieberman wants it, no Medicare buy-in, no public option, this sort of watered-down version of health care, but tens of millions of people enrolled, how does this play in the midterm election next fall?
Washington, I think 2010 is going to be a referendum on Washington and whether or not the status quo has changed here. And I think that's what's most troubling for Democrats, is that they're going to be judged on whether or not health care and energy bills were overreaches when it came to challenging the status quo, or I'm sorry, whether overreaches when it came to the status quo. That meaning that on energy policy and healthcare policy, that essentially what the left did was press forward with typical liberal policies of the past rather than trying to change anything for the future. And then how all of that ladders up to spending and deficits. And they're in a very perilous place right now with voters when it comes to whether or not Washington has changed. I mean, we heard the president in 2008 say, I'm going to take a scalpel to the federal budget. And here we are, deficits as far as the eye can see. And the word trillion coming out of Washington, D.C.
More often than it's not.
Every other word.
Kevin Madden, Republican strategist, thank you very much for being, sir. Appreciate it.